And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. My name is David Steele, where we always talk about movies here and getting the conversation started one way or the other. But today, we've got a different conversation. And this conversation is something that goes on year round. And in case anybody's been living under a rock for the last year, we have a big show coming up on Sunday. And I'm talking about the Oscars. The Oscars are good afternoon, Dadpool. The Oscars are something. This is the biggest night in Hollywood, guys. This is the one. This is the night. So there are two nights, or days, I should say, that every single film fan, cinema fan around the world, at least in the United States, they long for. They go out and see their favorite films, whether it is Holdovers, whether it is Oppenheimer, whether it is Poor Things. And then we get all these award shows, the BAFTAs, the SAGs, all these other award shows. And then, we get nominations. But the second biggest day of the year is the nomination shows. And whoever wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, God bless you. I was up, but I'm on the West Coast where it's actually held. So nonetheless, that is when we find out who the big five is in every single category, whether it is acting, whether it is cinematography, whether it is score, whether it is directing. And then we have the big night. And the big night is on Sunday. The big night is Sunday, guys. And there are some categories that are basically decided, but there are other categories that are kind of up in the air. And so, as it says here, it's the second year we've been doing this. And I wanted to bring in my good friend and Oscar predictor, Matthew Anderson. In case anybody did not see last year's show, you could go back and watch that. But he's pretty good at this. So,
last year I was pretty terrible, but usually I do okay overall.
Well, there was one year. So tell the viewers, you got how many wrong one year? Only two wrong?
So it was the year of Coda winning Best Picture. I got every category but two. Original screenplay and animated short.
Every single one but two.
And also, you have to keep in mind too, the shorts are also going to be really tough. We won't be covering them on here, but if you want to ask me after we're done with the whole predictions, what my predictions are going to be for the shorts, we can do that. But the shorts are always a crapshoot because that's what's going to mess you up on your Oscar pool to begin with. So the fact that I even got 2 out of 3 of those right that year is nuts.
It's like March Madness, guys. You fill your bracket out, you think you're really good, and then that 15 beats a 2 and it throws everything.
And it's usually the ones who have no idea what's going to win, and they're the ones that do better at the awards prediction for bracket for that stuff. So yeah.
And then of course we have on occasion that winner that is just out of complete left field. And every time, and I was flipping through the channels, and I told the story before. Every single time every single time I see it on TV, on the guide, I won't watch it. I've seen it twice, but Bridge of Spies with Mark Rylance. And yeah. Anyways, that's a whole other story for another time. So today what we're going to do is we're going to cover everything except the international, the shorts, and I think
documentary feature.
Documentary. So we're going to cover everything. We're going to cover all the under the line stuff and everything. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring up the slide for you guys. Okay. For example, the first one we're going to get started with is best song. So what I'm going to do for you guys is this is just right out of the gate. So what we're going to do is obviously everybody can see the nominees. We're going to talk about them. Once we're done talking about them, okay, then I'm going to say which one should win and which one deserves to win. Because let's face it, guys, we've had years that, we thought this song or this actor should have won, and the other one won. And what the hell happened? So let's get started. And, well, let's just jump right in. Original song. So we've got The Flame Inside from Flamin' Hot. And by the way, anybody who
Sorry,
hasn't seen
yeah.
that, Diane Warren, God bless Diane Warren. She has had what, over 20 nominations, I want to say.
It's like, yeah, I don't know if it's that
It's
much.
pretty. She's almost like the Susan
She
Lucci
is
of
in
the
double
Oscars.
digits, but I'll look it up in just a second. So yeah, keep going and I'll look
Okay.
it up.
I'm Just Ken from Barbie. Okay. It Never Went Away from American Symphony. Okay. The song, the ending song for Killers of the Flower Moon, and What Was I Made For Barbie. So Barbie has two of these, so they've got a 40% shot right out of the gate.
Yeah.
To win this category, and I think that we're starting with some of the ones that, let's frankly say, are kind of, I never want to say redundant, but we kind of have both in agreement on some of these. So what do you think should win, and what do you think will win, Matthew?
What should win? I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing I'm Just Ken winning. But it's gonna be What Was I Made For? Even though it lost the Critics' Choice to I'm Just Ken, it was clear that I'm Just Ken is more of a like popular kind of pick, but like What Was I Made For is the type of song the Academy would go for. Billie Eilish was just singing it, she's also writing the song with her brother Phineas, and you know, she's been out in campaign in full force everywhere. And yeah, it's gonna be her Oscar. And Diane Warren is now on her 15th nomination. So
15th nomination, guys.
yeah, so
I feel so bad for her.
Building those nominations up, and you're just never gonna win.
So as a little side note, this is going to be Billie Eilish's second Oscar. Now you say, well, what did she win for before? For people that don't remember, she won for the title song for No Time to Die.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, guys, I just did a whole Skyfall retrospective the other day. It was part of the Perfect Movie series. I'll put the link right up there in the little box for you guys. And I talked about the 5 main reasons of what is needed in a Bond film and why Skyfall, for me, is a perfect film. Mm-hmm. But interestingly enough, if you go back, the last three people that have actually sung for a Bond film have won an Oscar. So you look at Adele for Skyfall, you look at Spectre with Sam Smith, and then of course you had Billie Eilish, who ended up winning for No Time to Die. So this is going to be her second Oscar if she wins on Sunday.
She probably will.
Yeah. So that, I think, is, and by the way, I'm in total agreement with you. I think What Was I Made For? I mean, it's got a 40% chance, Barbie does to win, but I just think, What Was I Made For is the better song. And I think that this, unfortunately, is going to be the only, for the record, I'm going to say this right now, this is the only Oscar Barbie is going to win.
Oh boy, yeah, you and I are okay. I'll get to the other categories because I have a very hot take.
This is the only Oscar. I thought for a while that after I'd seen some things, I thought it might have won 3: production design, costume, and original song. This is a lot for me, but I'm not too sure about production design and costume, and we'll get to those. Speaking of costume.
Yeah, because I got some hot takes on those, but yeah.
Let's just jump right into the costume.
Okay, right into it. Okay.
So, of course, we have got Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Jacqueline West. And by the way, guys, Jacqueline West, anybody, and I'm going to push this too. Of course, she just did the Dune, okay? Dune 2 just came out. I'll put it up here in the little box for you guys. Dune 2, I just did a whole spoiler cast for. She did both Dune movies with Denis Villeneuve. She's worked with, some other, Sam Mendes. She's a fabulous costume designer. So this is another nomination for her. We've got Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Who's walking away with the Oscar? Well, first, who deserves to win it? And second, who will win it?
I think so. All right, so I'm gonna put out a big spoiler right now. Spoilers for other categories. I am not predicting Poor Things to win a single Oscar. I thought about it for about a week, and as we'll dive into each category, I'll give my reasons as to why. But I think Barbie is, in my opinion, the more like showier, flashier work. I do like some of what Killers of the Flower Moon is doing. And Poor Things is doing a pretty good job. But I actually think Barbie is going to win the category. It's got a couple of things in its advantage. It's Barbie. It's a product that the voters know for. Jacqueline Duran is a 2-time Oscar winner. It also won not only did it win in its own category, a Costume Designer Guild, but also it won at the Critics' Choice Award. I understand that you sort of, usually people that win Costume Designer Guild and Critics' Choice Award, they kind of just sweep along to the Oscar win. But we remember last year when Wakanda Forever won just Critics' Choice. It lost the Costume Designer Guild to Everything Ever All at Once. And yet Wakanda Forever still won the category. And the only 2 times that of a film that has lost the Critics' Choice Award for costumes, a film has lost that category and went on to win the Oscar. It was, what was it? Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which won in an upset. And it lost to Jackie at the Critics' Choice Award. And then what was the other one? Dolomite Is My Name, which wasn't even nominated to the Oscars, won Critics' Choice, and Little Women ended up getting a sole win. So I like I said, I'm just going to stick with Barbie because I just rewatched it last night. It's the showiest of the 5 nominees here. It's the one that's been seen by the most broader demographic, even though Oppenheimer's pretty famous here, but Oppenheimer hasn't been able to win Jack for the costume awards. And they even make a point at the beginning of Barbie to have all of these different wardrobe costume attires for Barbie in the movie. Like it's literally even like when Ken throwing out all of Barbie's
Yes, I remember that.
Dresses. So like all that stuff. It's like so it just feels to me like Barbie is gonna win this Oscar for costume.
Yeah,
that's my pick.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, I've seen 4 out of the 5 here. I haven't seen Napoleon. However,
no, it's boring.
That being said, I don't even think Napoleon was in the mix. Of the 5, I agree with you. It's got to be Barbie.
I think
showy.
It's Barbie.
It's so truth be told, moving forward, okay, I thought Barbie had a shot at 3 Oscars. Okay, Best Original Song was a lock. We all knew that. Mm-hmm. I think it has a real shot at costume design. Okay. And I also think it's got a shot at production design.
Yeah.
So this could be its second Oscar of the night. Go ahead.
Well, and the other thing too about costume design is like, again, like I understand that the BAFTAs went for the favorite, but not the favorite. Jesus, I'm sorry, wrong. Yorgos Lanthimos.
Don't worry about it.
But it went for Poor Things. But we remember 5 years ago, BAFTA went all in on the favorite, and it only ended up winning 1 Oscar on the night. And Black Panther the only thing Black Panther won there wasn't even nominated to the Oscars, was visual effects. Like that was it. So the fact that they were willing to go in on the favorite in general just shows like the international voting branch is on board with getting the favorite an Oscar somewhere. It just wasn't going to be in costumes or production design now that, Black Panther wasn't there. And this year, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I personally I never bought that BAFTA was ever going to go with Barbie just because it didn't make it in for Best Film. And also the whole Barbenheimer event, even though it's taking place around the world, I'd assume that international voters just don't give a shit about Barbie as much as we do. So, yeah, but I'm still sticking with Barbie, even though I do think it is a 2-horse race between both Poor Things and Barbie.
I agree. I'm going to go with Barbie here. And, so yeah, I'm definitely going to go with Barbie. So let's move on. So by the way, guys, some of these are going to be quick. As we get later and deeper into this, we'll
try to go as quick as we can because it's already a long show as it is.
Yeah.
I feel.
So, okay, moving on. Best hair and makeup. This is another one that's, I think I have a winner here, and I want to see if it's the same as yours. But we've got Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. Once again, who do you think deserves to win, and who do you think is going to win, Matthew?
I've only seen 3 of the nominees here, but I actually really love what they did with Maestro. I thought the old makeup work for Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan were fantastic, and I'm actually going to predict that to win the makeup category. I understand that there is some momentum going for Poor Things, and even on the anonymous ballots, it does make me a little bit worried that Maestro could go home with nothing, and they could just give it to Poor Things. But the thing about Maestro is that when you like this has been a really weird year for makeup in general because Critics' Choice decided to go with Barbie, which wasn't even shortlisted or nominated for the Oscars, and it was just Critics' Choice liking Barbie that much. BAFTA went with it because it's BAFTA, they like it more. Again, best film nominee, Maestro wasn't, but the fact that Maestro was the only film of Golda, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, and Maestro, that was the only film to win any kind of prize at the Guild, the Makeup Guild. It's just like, okay, I think Maestro's still going to take this. And on top of that, one thing I didn't realize, and I should have put this into effect into our reasoning for last year, when I think we both predicted Elvis to win makeup, and we shouldn't have looking back on it. This category, so there's 2 things. One, this category tends to go for films where there's heavy makeup throughout the film on our main characters and are usually nominated for their acting performances. So last year, I understand that Elvis had some like prosthetic work, but it's mostly for Tom Hanks. He wasn't nominated in the Oscars. He was a
And
supporting.
by the way, he got a Razzie too, or he was nominated for a Razzie.
Yeah.
So,
but also too, like Poor Things, Elvis had a lot of hair appliances. And whenever they did use makeup for it was either for the Colonel, which he's not in it as much as Butler was, but also they had like the big heavy makeup prosthetic at the end of Elvis when he's doing the last piano thing. With Poor Things, Emma Stone's not the one in the transformation makeup. It's Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is in the transformation makeup. He's not in it as much as Emma Stone is. And I do think that some of the old guard voters will be turned off by the ghoulish look that Dafoe gives. And again, the fact that it couldn't even win a single Guild award, which, by the way, since the Guild started all the way back when Dallas Buyers Club won a Guild award and then went on to win the Oscar, there's only been one time where a film missed a win at the Guild and still won the Oscar, and that was Eyes of Tammy Faye. The only time. And the Eyes of Tammy Faye that year, that year at the Makeup Guild, they decided to go with, I'm looking through here, Coming to America and Cruella for the major categories. And Eyes of Tammy Faye managed to win because it had the main character caked in makeup all throughout the movie, and it got a BAFTA and Critics' Choice win too. So so like I said, I'm still going with Maestro. And if it does win, then I will officially be calling this the Benjamin Button theory. And that is what I'm going to always go with like, who's a lead actor or lead actors that are caked in makeup all throughout the film. And, it wasn't enough to transform them into said role. And the whole, is this anti-Semitic of putting, a Jewish nose on Bradley Cooper? Is that going to stop it? I don't think it will, because the Academy has no moral ground. They don't. Otherwise, they wouldn't be giving rapists and pedophiles Academy Awards like they've been doing for the past like 20, 30 years alone, at least. But they just don't have moral ground. They don't care about it. All they care about is what's the movie that they saw and what's the movie that they loved. And they even nominated Golda too. Like that kind of makeup work is like so like up the Academy's, so to speak. So anyways, yeah. So my choice.
I agree with you. The funny thing is that basically I mean I agree with you. I think it's Maestro here. It's fascinating to me that they would even make an issue out of this.
Yeah,
now,
which is BS.
Bradley Cooper, for anybody, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but Bradley Cooper obviously got the blessing from the family and everything else. And even the 3 children, of Leonard Bernstein said, why are we making this an issue?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, it reminds me of the, no, I won't say snafu, but it reminds me of the big to-do about another film he was in, actually, was American Sniper with the baby.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
just like, guys, look at the film on its merits. Don't worry about if it's a real baby or not. Don't worry
Yeah.
about if it's a prosthetic nose or not. Look at the performance while we were, here to watch, not whether the guy's nose is, you know. But
Yeah.
all that being said, I do
And
like Maestro here
And
myself.
the last point I'll make, and then we could just move on to the other categories. Unlike Poor Things, Kazuhiro has been campaigning his ass off everywhere. Netflix is making sure that no matter what happens in the lead acting categories, they're going to make sure that this goes home with a win somewhere. And Kazuhiro is a 2-time Oscar winner. He is a much bigger name than any of the Poor Things crew, even Mark Coulier, who also has 2 Oscar wins himself. So, like, yeah, and even too, like Kazuhiro's 2 other wins were for biopics, Darkest Hour and Bombshell.
Yeah,
So I still think Maestro is going to win this category easily.
yeah.
But if there's any kind of competition, it's Poor Things.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. Okay,
Yeah.
so moving on. So we've gotten through a couple. Speaking of production design, that is going to be the next category up. We have Barbie, Kills the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Once again, and by the way, guys, you're going to see a lot of repetitive nominees in here. So Oppenheimer ended up getting 13 nominations. Kills the Flower Moon, I want to say, got 11. Okay. Poor Things got 9. So, I mean, you're going to see a lot of names here bouncing around. Napoleon got some, but obviously, I think that came in at 4th or 5th place in the number of actual
Yeah,
nominees.
I was gonna say Barbie got 8 nominations, Killers got
Okay.
10, Oppenheimer got 13, Poor Things got 11, and Napoleon
Yeah.
got 3.
So, you're going to see a lot of repetitive names here. So, once again,
Yeah.
who do you think is going to win and who do you think should win?
So I'm gonna do a process of elimination if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Napoleon's done. That's not winning. No one saw it. Kills of the Flower Moon, I think, has like a tiny chance, but like Jack Fisk has never won an Academy Award ever, and I just think it's just too competitive this year to win. Oppenheimer could do it as a surprise if it's going to be like a big sweeper, but I realized too, films like Forrest Gump and Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring, when they lose production design at the Academy Awards and they have like 13 nominations attached to them, they typically lose to the more showier, flashier films. Like Fellowship of the Ring lost production design to Moulin Rouge, which also won costumes as well. And Fellowship of the Ring, like Oppenheimer, is like a front runner for cinematography, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is going to be tough. I'm going to stick with Barbie for production design just for a couple reasons. One, Critics' Choice typically goes it's a little bit more reliable of a predictor for production design. I understand that last year Babylon didn't translate to an Oscar win, but they were never going to go for that looking back on it, and that's why All Quiet on the Western Front managed to surprise in that year. And this category is known for throwing it as a curveball. Like, yeah, was it almost 10, 13 years ago? Most of us thought Inception was going to win production design, but they ended up giving it to Alice in Wonderland. And I do see like a tiny chance of Poor Things to win this, but like I started looking back, and these were the 2 things that started making me think, no, I have to go with Barbie. So the first one, it's only been like 19 times in the history of the Academy Awards that we've had a lone production design winner, and only 5 of them came from Best Picture nominees. The last one being Heaven Can Wait, which was all the way back in the 70s. And the last official like lone production design winner was Sweeney Todd altogether. And that managed to win because it was in a less competitive field than where we are now. We are in a field where literally almost any of these could win. So for me to think Poor Things is going to do that, I'm like, nope, that's not going to happen. And there was one other stat I had on hand. If you could just give me one. Okay, here we go. So including this year's nominees, there have only been 5 times where costume design and production design went 5 for 5. So in other words, the costume design and the production design categories were the exact same nominees. So in 1964, the first one was My Fair Lady, won both categories. 65, Dr. Zhivago won both. 69, they split. costume design went to Anne of the Thousand Days, and production design, I believe, went to Hello Dolly. And 2003 was Return of the King, which won both categories. And 2000, and so for me to predict a split, I'm pretty much asking the impossible. Like, it's already impossible for a lone production design to winner to happen already, but it's even impossible with that stat in mind to be like, okay, but so I'm just gonna stick with Barbie. I really think even rewatching it the last night, I just kept thinking to myself, this production design is so showy, and on top of that, it just feels like a Black Panther situation where just like that film was a lot of predictors had thought, well, I don't know if this is going to win because once they get out of Wakanda or Barbie Land, they go into the real world and it's not as set decoration heavy as the rest of it. For Black Panther, they didn't care because it was another $1 billion movie. And they were able to go back into the world, and and a lot of these voters just think like, oh, Barbie Land, that's all I remember. There you go. There's the Oscar. Or, hey, Wakanda. There you go. There's the Oscar. So I'm gonna stick with Barbie, but like I said, I could see this be a bit of a toss up between the two, or maybe like I said, Oppenheimer Killers of the Flower Moon upset. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
I think that this is the third Oscar for Barbie. This is, and I said it earlier, it has a 3, as it had a shot at winning 3 Oscars: production design, original song, and costume. This would be the third Oscar for it. I can see a Poor Things winning. Oppenheimer, it's going to be winning so many other things during the evening. I don't know. I think the Academy is going to want to spread it out a little bit.
Well, and
Napoleon has no chance.
yeah. And the other thing about Oppenheimer, though, is that I could see a world where a lot of voters just want to, check it off for everything, even in like the making category, and be like, screw it, give it all the Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So, no, I personally, I mean, I have a theory where there's a curse if you get 10 or more Oscar nominations. And we've seen this countless times over the years. I mean, there have been, you had things like Return of the King and everything else. But look, how many times over the years have we seen like an American Hustle get double-digit nominations, a La La Land get double-digit nominations, a Power of the Dog get double-digit nominations, and walk away with very little or nothing? So, that all being said, I'm going to stick with Barbie on this. I agree with you. So, but my second place would be Poor Things. Okay, guys. So let's move on. So this one is a very interesting category. And you were talking about Marvel earlier, and I wanted to put this in there.
We had to talk about this one this early.
And we had to talk about this one, right? So the 5 nominees are The Creator. And by the way, I got through this portion of the podcast of Matt Niglia's podcast. By the way, guys, if you really like movies and you really want to hear from an insider, go check out the Next Picture podcast. He knows what he's talking about. So we've got The Creator. We've got Godzilla -1. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and Napoleon. So once again, who do you think is going to win? And then who do you think who deserves to win? And who do you think is going to win?
All right. Another cross examination. I don't think Guardians of the Galaxy is going to win. I don't think Dead Reckoning is going to do it. So we're kind of down to Godzilla and Napoleon.
It's either one. So I'm with you on this. I'm with you on this, and I'll let you go first, and then I'll put my 2 cents. Go for it.
Okay, so I'm not predicting Godzilla. I could see a world where that could upset potentially, but the problem that I have with predicting Godzilla is that, okay, first off, I have a source, Will Mavity had said, who's also on Next Best Picture podcast. He has stated that he has talked with voters, and even Clayton Davis has from Variety, I believe. I've heard and talked with some, Oscar predictors who talked with voters, and they say that visual effects, along with the shorts, is the least seen of the lineup. So, there's not really any kind of big passion that's going to come from this. That's other years like Avatar or Dune winning visual effects, we're like, duh, that's gonna win. It very much is a like coin toss kind of scenario. But I'm not predicting Godzilla -1. I could see a case where that could upset, but I was looking through the history, and there were a couple things that stood out to me. One, since the Critics' Choice Awards started their whole predictions for visual effects, every visual effects winner since the first Avatar film got a BAFTA nomination and a Critics' Choice nomination, including Ex Machina. Ex Machina, granted, didn't win any of the precursors. It wasn't even nominated at the Visual Effects Society, and they still went for that. And also had like a screenplay nomination too. So that was the first thing. So that kind of crossed like, okay, Godzilla's not winning it. Napoleon's just not going to win it because it lost the visual effects supporting photo reel category to Nyad, which wasn't even nominated at the Oscars. So yeah, Napoleon's out. Even if we took away the Visual Effects Society winners for the creator, I think the creator has a shot at winning this, and I'm going to predict it right now because of the fact that if there is going to be any kind of, well, first off, most of these voters aren't even going to watch the movies. All they're just going to do is just watch the presentations for these films, and the creator did stand out. And I even showed some of these presentations to my grandmother, like Godzilla, Napoleon, and the creator, and she was actually really impressed with the creator too. And the one thing that she brought up about Godzilla that could be a hard time swaying the Academy voters, especially the older ones, is it's a freaking lizard movie. Yes. That's all it is. It's like, even if it is like one of the best Godzilla movies ever made, it's not considered an artsy kind of movie. Whereas the creator is a non-IP brand. And Napoleon, everyone knows Napoleon, but no one watched Napoleon. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So, and also too, I've noticed even during Oscar voting, the visual effects crew, especially the director Gareth Edwards, have gone out to everyone to do all these like for your consideration interviews, and it seems like Disney is doing some. They did a couple of screenings even as voting was about to end soon. And unlike like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, the creator does have a sound nomination, which surprised which it didn't have any precursor nominations. It couldn't even get into the Sound Editors Guild for anything. So I'm just gonna say screw it and say the creator, but I could be wrong on this too.
Yeah, I think this is down to two. I think it's the creator and Godzilla. I mean, if you look at Napoleon, we have essentially written off Napoleon. And by the way, watch it goes and cleans up like 4 Oscars.
Yeah, and for the record, if Napoleon does win visual effects, I'm never straying away from the production designs. That and the other thing too, I failed to mention about this. I think it was like Mark Johnson and Adam Clay. They brought this up to me like a couple weeks ago. 12 out of 13 of the last VFX winners managed to win this category with a sound nomination attached to it too. So like a film getting a sound nomination along, winning the visual effects category. And I recall too the year when 1917 beat out, what was it? The Irishman. It beat out The Irishman out of all the movies. And 1917 did have a production design nomination like The Irishman did, but it also had a sound nomination too. And so that and the combo of BAFTA and Critics' Choice nominations is like I have to stick with the creator. If it does win, then I will forever be, narrowing my searches down to what are the films that got in for BAFTA and Critics' Choice. But if it doesn't, then I would love to know who the winner ends up being. But anyways.
I think for me, this is down to two.
Yeah.
And it's down to the creator and Godzilla.
Okay.
When you look at everything, I mean, we've basically written Napoleon off of every category we've spoken about. Okay, we've written it off. It is going to win, so that's out the door. And you're right about process of elimination. Mission Impossible has been around for 30 years, almost 30 years. Okay, It has not won Academy Award to its credit.
And this is the first nomination ever for any of the movies.
You're right. This is the first nomination ever. Okay, and you see what they have to do just to get the nomination. Okay, so I can't see a world where Mission Impossible wins.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, once again, we've had nominations, but never in 17 years of having the MCU and everything else,
Yeah.
ever has it won an Oscar. Not for
Mhm.
Black Panther. Angela Bassett didn't win it a couple of years ago. You know, very, very rarely. Now, granted, it's not there every single year, and I get that.
Yeah. But
But
they
at
are
the
very
same time,
Yeah.
yeah,
But they
at
are
the same
notorious.
time, though,
Oh,
I can't. I just and look, it was a good movie. I'm not disputing that.
yeah,
I
it was
just
good.
can't see it grabbing it away from the creator. Which, by the way, the budget wasn't that big.
$80 million
Okay,
was the budget.
and it's a different story. There's a little morality twist to it and everything else. And then Godzilla, like what you said. At the end of the day, it's a big lizard. So I'm gonna agree with you once again. I'm gonna go with the creator here.
Yeah, and the other thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that they've tried for many years to get a visual effects win, and they just can't do it. Like they kept losing out to these like prestige kind of like movies. Like even Infinity War lost to First Man, and the creator does feel like now that Dune is not in play and they don't have Poor Things or Oppenheimer here, it feels like the creator's the only one that feels like a Best Picture nominee, even though Napoleon does feel like it too. But like I said before, if Napoleon does win this category in a major upset, then I will forever stay with the production design stat no matter what. But I have a feeling the creator might win this just because they're going to I just feel like they're going to give it to the creator just because it's the one that the one that the of the show reels that they presented impress the voters the most if they are going to watch any of the movies, which they probably aren't. But yeah, but like I said, it's nice that
Yeah.
Godzilla at least got an Oscar nomination, so that's cool.
No,
But
yeah, absolutely. I think
don't-
that I think it's the creator. I think
yeah,
it's the creator, and I think that's the one that's gonna win. And it's the fact that it even Godzilla even got the nomination. I'm not saying it's fantastic, but of those other three films, this is one of those categories. After all these precursors and everything else, you can kind of whittle it down to two, maybe three, like an on-site chance. But a lot of these are like two, and
yeah.
yeah, I'm just gonna go with the creator there. So moving on to the next category. So we've gone through a couple. Okay, so this one is a. By the way, guys, this is a no-brainer for me, and I think it's a no-brainer for him. If Ludwig doesn't win the Oscar here, there needs to be an investigation. It's that simple.
Yeah.
There needs to be an investigation with the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences because he's won every single precursor.
Well,
He's
of the
won
televised
BAFTA.
stuff, yeah.
He's won Golden Globe. He's won Critics' Choice. He's won everything that he can win.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't win the Oscar here, I would be floored. And by the way, I'll just run through them for the sake of doing it. You have American Fiction, okay? Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And I think this is John Williams' like 16,000th nomination.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
Killers of the Flower Moon, Robbie Robinson. Of course, Ludwig with Oppenheimer, and then you have Poor Things. So I think you're in agreement with me. This is Oppenheimer all day long.
I actually think Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is going to win this. No, it's not.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
No. I will say, hot take though, if you are looking for a runner-up though, I think it could be Killers of the Flower Moon, but I actually could, cynically see the Academy just say, it's good. Indiana Jones is like the runner-up.
Yeah, I mean, look, John Williams
it's John Williams is like a big name.
He's 93.
He's
93, 94 years old. I mean, the man doesn't have
92.
long left.
Yeah, he's
92.
He's recently 92. He's got like 50 plus nominations.
I
And
mean,
like the guy is like such a big name amongst the voters that they're like, fuck it, whatever.
But
I do think Ludwig is going to win his second Oscar. He's going to do it. Nothing's going to stop him. Like he literally swept the entire thing. So yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a no-brainer. Okay, let's move on since that was pretty easy. Let's move on to best cinematography. Now, this one's a little interesting, but I think it's also I think it's also pretty basic here. We have Alcante, we have Killers of the Flower Moon, we have Maestro, we have Oppenheimer, and we have Poor Things.
Mhm.
What do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to win, and who do you think deserves to win?
I would say I really love I haven't seen El Conde yet, so I can't comment on that. But from what I have seen, I really love the look of Killers of the Flower Moon. Maestro had some stunning cinematography in that. I mean, say what you want about that film, but that is a work of art by Matthew Libatique. But unfortunately, they're not winning their Oscars this year. I do like some of Robbie Ryan's work on Poor Things, so that was pretty good, but it's going to be Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's
Yeah,
going to win this. It managed to win the Cinematography Guild, the BAFTA, and the Critics' Choice. That is plenty of room for Hoyte van Hoytema to win the Oscar for cinematography. So congratulations on your first win.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just don't. So I have Oppenheimer walking away between 7 and 9
Hmm.
Oscars, and so I have that with between 7 and 9, depending on. Um, I have Barbie winning 3. Okay, and as you talked about, and we'll get to it in a couple of minutes. Poor Things looks like it's going 0 for 11.
It could go home with something, but I just do not feel comfortable predicting it winning a single
Yeah,
Oscar
and I
right
think
now.
I
I just
think
don't.
that it depends on what happens early in the night, right?
Yeah.
If it's going to Oppenheimer or Barbie or whatever, chances are, then because those are kind of all correlated, it's not going to win anything. So yeah, I agree with you. I think best cinematography. I think it's got to be Oppenheimer. I do. So okay, guys, moving right along. Let's go to best animated feature. This
Hmm.
one, I don't know. I may surprise you with the choice here, but we do have Boy
Oh,
and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So once again, who do you think should win, and who do you think is going to win?
well, I've only seen one nominee in the category because I wasn't bothered enough to watch the rest of them. And the last time I did watch all five, I got severely burned, and I'm like, I'm never doing this again. I may watch Robot Dreams down the road because I actually hear that's pretty good. I think it's Spider Verse. Like, yeah, I get it. It lost the BAFTA and it lost the Golden Globe to The Boy and the Heron, but like, I've always said the biggest reliable stat for me has always been the Editors Guild, and I get it. Boy and the Heron was never going to get in there because they don't like hand drawn animation at the Editors Guild, but like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the most beloved film of the lineup. Yes, it's not as I guess like well received as the first one. I for in some corners of the world, or maybe it's just because they want they want Hayao Miyazaki to win his second Oscar, which I just don't think it's going to happen. Um, every animated film since Up has won the Ace Eddie animated category except for Big Hero 6, and it lost to a non-Oscar nominee, which was the Lego Movie. And Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse managed to win the Ace Editors Guild. It also won the Producers Guild Award too. And I'm just gonna stick with it because it's also the most seen of the lineup. Like, I'm sorry to say this, but these voters just go by. What's the film that I put that my kids tortured me in front of for like 2 hours? Spider-Verse. Okay, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, um, yeah, I think that, believe it or not,
You're
I saw
struggling, aren't
Spider
you?
Verse, and it was amazing as usual.
Yeah.
I saw the inside. I saw the first one before I went to go see that one. I'm actually going to go out on a limb and do the Boy and the Heron.
Hmm.
I think that this is a film that's in part of this, guys, is what is the narrative and the momentum right now. So we've seen, and it
Spider-Verse.
changes. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's Spider Verse right now, but that's what you have because this is such a long process that you know for a long time, Boy and the Heron was picking up momentum and steam and everything else. And at the same time, then it came back to Spider Verse and everything else. I don't think Elemental ever had a shot just because it
No.
was opening, and I don't think a lot of people heard of Robot Dreams, And if they
No.
did, there was very little. The fact that it even got nominated was incredible.
Yep.
Nimona, not so much. But yeah, I'm gonna. This is my one out there pick. I'm gonna go with Boy in the Heron. I think that has a chance. Now look, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the absolute favorite here. It's the
Yeah.
absolute favorite here. I'm not, it's the absolute favorite. But
I-
I
No.
can see the one category that is out there, so to speak. I can
Mhm.
see them doing an animation.
I just feel like Hayao Miyazaki, the only time he won the Oscar was in an incredibly weak year, which is like the second time they gave out the award. And that was for Spirited Away. And I just don't like they've never even given him another Oscar win or even allow him in other categories. But all right, sure. If you want
Yeah,
to,
no,
go with
I
the
agree
Heron,
with you.
yeah.
I think that, look, I agree. I think Across the Spider-Verse is going to walk home with it.
Yeah.
But we need to have a little bit of,
Sure. If you want to, yeah, you want to
So,
break up the monotony and
yeah,
the
exactly.
predictableness.
So,
That's fine.
nonetheless, let's move on. We've got film editing.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, this is so he's just gonna walk right into this. Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And the winner is
Oppenheimer.
yeah,
I've
it's
said this since
Oppenheimer.
it came out of the movie. This is winning editing. I understand I got Top Gun Maverick wrong, but that was because I wasn't too. I guess I was kind of denying the potential of like, is Everything Ever All at Once going to win when it wasn't even nominated for sound? But it was a much stronger film than I had realized, so that's on me, and I fucked up. But no, Oppenheimer is going to win editing. I saw the moment I came out of this movie, I thought this is a done race. It's over. If you're looking at a like potential runner-up or surprise, it's gonna be from Killers of the Flower Moon, or I would argue it's the Holdovers because the Holdovers managed to beat out Poor Things in the comedy musical category at the Ace Editors Guild. Now, granted, the Kevin Tent is the president of ACE, so there's a bit of a bias there. Like there isn't bias in all these awards like the Oscars, but come on. But I do think the Holdovers or Kills of the Flower Moon would be like a potential like runner up, so to speak. But it's such a distant runner up to where it's like no matter what, Oppenheimer's going to take this, and it's nice to see Jennifer Lame go from Hereditary to work with Ari Aster in a couple of films, or maybe it was just the one film, to her working with Tenet with Christopher Nolan and Manchester by the Sea, and to finally now she's in a position where she's about to win her Oscar, and to be in competition with Thelma Schoonmaker is incredible. So yeah, congratulations, Jennifer. You got your deserved Oscar.
Yeah, I think that this is Oppenheimer. I don't, this is just one of those Oppenheimer. You're going to be hearing that a lot on Sunday, and the Oscar goes to Oppenheimer, and that's the way it's going to be. And that's anybody who has not seen Oppenheimer. I saw it 3 times in theaters, all in
I've
IMAX.
seen it 3 times now.
Yeah, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I struggle. Depending what date it is, I struggle with which is the better film, The Dark Knight or Oppenheimer. I mean, it's just
Oh, that's
yeah.
easy.
So
It's The Dark
yeah,
Knight.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
so yeah.
but
I mean, you
yeah.
can
Well,
go, you can go both
yeah.
ways.
I will get to my feelings on Christopher Nolan when we get to director and picture. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Okie
So anyway.
dokie. So now we're done with editing. And by the way, I don't have it up, guys, and I don't have a slide for it. But just tell us quickly who you think sound's going to go to.
Okay, so sound, I understand that some people are predicting. I'm just going to pull up my cheat sheet here. It's the little like guide I have with all
Mm-hmm.
the precursors things.
Mm-hmm.
So the nominees were The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. I understand that Zone of Interest was sort of gaining ground with the BAFTA win, but it was immediately, in my opinion, shut down right after it lost the Sound Editing Guild for foreign language to Society of the Society of the Snow, I think it was. So that was done. I understand that Maestro won the Sound Editor Guild for music score, but I think it's still going to be Oppenheimer. It won the Sound Mixing Guild, and it won 2 of the Sound Editing Awards for Dialogue ADR and Sound Effects Foley, which is usually what happens. when they go on to win the Oscar for sound. Dune and just to give you a bit of context, Dune and Top Gun Maverick, two of the last two sound winners in this category at the Oscars. They also won sound effects fully at the Sound Editors Guild and went on to win the Oscar as well. And if I could just go on a quick tangent here, I know we got a whole lot to go through here with the Oscars, but it's so strange to me that Kevin O'Connell has been who's a sound mixer, who's been nominated for 20 fucking Oscars. He finally won his first Oscar for his 21st nomination for Hacksaw Ridge. He hadn't been nominated at the Oscars since like Transformers. Now he's back in the race with Hacksaw Ridge. And now he has an opportunity. He's probably going to win a second Oscar for Oppenheimer. And I just find it so nuts that like a guy like him who's kept losing constantly since the mid 80s or early 80s, since like, I think Terms of Endearment. And now he's about to win his second Academy Award. It's just nuts. I mean, good for him, honestly, but still, it's like, holy crap, though.
Yeah,
he's like,
no, I agree.
Of sound mixers, where it's like he keeps losing these nominations, and now he's at a point where it's like he's got 2 wins, bam, bam, there you go.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's crazy. Some of these guys and gals, they've been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they have all these nominations, and they just it's just, it's a quick type of thing. Okay, so now we're going to start to get into the meaty stuff, guys. Thank you for staying with us. Look, the fact of the matter is this. All of those categories we went through are just as important as what's in front of the screen. So, I mean, when we talk about editing and cinematography and, I just watched Skyfall the other day. And Roger Deakins is a master. And I didn't realize he was the DP on Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
but
really?
Nonetheless, yeah. I mean, he's done Blade Runner 2049, Fargo, whatever. But Skyfall, if you look at Skyfall, the cinematography is unbelievable. And that all being said, that was a major thing. And he's a 2-time Academy Award winner. And what I'm getting at, guys, is the cinematography and the editing and the sound are just as important as all these actors in front of the camera. So, Once again, thank you for staying with me on that. So now we're going to get into the more fun stuff, okay? Now we're going to go into original screenplay. Now, you and I differ on this, okay? And I want to see... Actually, no, it's the next one. I'm sorry. So we have Anatomy of a Fall, okay? The Holdovers, Maestro, May, December, and Past Lives. I'm pretty sure I know where you stand, but tell our viewers.
It's going to be Anatomy of a Fall. It won the BAFTA. Okay. It won the Golden Globe. And even at Critics' Choice, like, The Holdovers couldn't even win there. Like, it was beaten out by Barbie. Like, and we'll talk about adapted screenplay in a minute probably. But, like, it's just like, I didn't notice this until last year, but these screenplay awards, they tend to go to either 2 options. You're either the front runner / runner up for Best Picture, like Coda was, or you're the cool kids pick for the category. And Anatomy of a Fall is the cool kids pick. It follows the line of like Get Out, Promising Young Woman, where it's dealing with these like sort of political issues, so to speak, or issues within a certain country, and it's doing it in a very clever and interesting way. And there's clearly a lot of passion behind this. I mean, Justine Triet even got in for director as well, which is something that none of the other nominees even could do, not even Holdovers or Maestro for that matter. But yeah, I think it is going to be Anatomy of a Fall winning original screenplay at the Oscars, and no one's going to beat it. I think
now your point. So I could see a world where The Holdovers does win this. Once again, I think Anatomy of a Fall is the favorite, but because The Holdovers was nominated for what? 4?
It was 5 Oscars: picture, 2 acting categories, editing, and screenplay.
Okay, I could see it. I could see the Academy, because we both agree that Oppenheimer is going to win editing. I could see them wanting to give an Oscar to The Holdovers. This could be their Oscar.
It could
because
be.
it's going to have the best supporting actress, and we'll get to that in a couple minutes. That's a lock. That's a lock all the way home.
Yeah,
But I could see them wanting to give original screenplay there. That's just me.
Well, the other thing
Either
about
that
original
or Past Lives.
Well, I don't think Past Lives is winning anything. I think Celine Song is just happy to be there. But the thing about original screenplay I've noticed is that ever since I'm looking through right now, Midnight in Paris, okay, every original screenplay winner has gone to its director. And the other thing you have to consider too about screenplay is that it's the consolation prize for said director. And Justine Triet is not going to win director at the Oscars. Last year we saw Women Talking wasn't going to win anything, and Sarah Polley was able to win her adapted screenplay prize, and same with Belfast and Promising Young Woman. But so they always give it to directors who have a hand in writing their scripts. Alexander Payne is not involved with The Holdovers whatsoever. It's David Hemmingson, which is his first major script he's worked on. So I still think it's Anatomy of the Fall winning the category.
Once again, I agree with you. I think Anatomy of the Fall is probably going to win, but that's the favorite. But I could see a world where The Holdovers wins,
like a tiny upset,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
But it's like I said, I've always said the moment that it lost the Critics' Choice Award, and we don't even have the WGA to rely on this year on whether or not The Holdovers, Past Lives, or any of these other films would win the WGA and go on to win the Oscar. But I just feel like, I just feel like I did believe for a second The Holdovers could do it, but once it lost Critics' Choice to Barbie, which wasn't even nominated here for this category, I'm like, The Holdovers is done. So
and that was a whole interesting storyline in itself. So moving on to adapted screenplay. So we just had original. Okay, now adapted is a whole different thing. I know where you stand, so you can tell the fans in a moment. American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. What says you, Matthew?
I'm going with Oppenheimer.
Really?
No, I'm not. No. Here's the thing. I understand that I've been getting messages left and right of so many people being like, Oppenheimer is growing too strong in the anonymous ballots. Barbie's got still momentum there. Tune out the anonymous ballots. Tune those out, because I remember time and time again, we kept getting responses over and over again of people saying stuff like, Penelope Cruz is going to win lead actress. All this stuff. And it's like, you just need to tune some of that stuff out right now. Even with the All Quiet on the Western Front or whatever it was last year, you just need to tune it out, because you have to see, unless you feel like there's genuine passion for said movie. Because I think the last time we had any kind of major upset in this category that was not expected at all to win was when Precious beat out Up in the Air. And Precious managed to beat out Up in the Air. Part of it was because of that whole controversy they had with Up in the Air about its writer, Sheldon Turner and Jason Reitman, sort of conflicting of should we share credit? Should we, because I guess there was a whole thing of Jason Reitman didn't even bother reading Sheldon Turner's script, and Jason Reitman wasn't really a team player, so to speak, even though they won all the Precursors awards there were. And they gave it to Precious, which was this traumatizing, film about Black trauma, and Monique was sweeping her way to an Oscar win for supporting actress. We're not getting that this year. I could see a compelling case for Oppenheimer, just slightly, only because most of the films that win Producers Guild, Screen Actors Guild Ensemble, and Directors Guild win the screenplay category. You think of, picture, director, screenplay. So think of stuff like Everything Ever Rolled Once, Birdman, Parasite. Actually, no, Parasite didn't even do it. But regardless, I still think it's American Fiction. It's the type of movie that I've always said, the moment this won the TIFF Audience Prize, and I saw the trailer and I saw the movie 20 minutes in, I thought, this is winning adapted screenplay. It's kind of over. Even if Barbie got in for both original, even if it got in for adapted, it was still never going to win the Oscar, in my opinion. It just was never going to happen, because it's not the kind of film that wins an Oscar for writing. They usually give that kind of film something else elsewhere, like production design, costume, song, whatever it is. And I just, American Fiction is like, you don't give a film, like, there's no way a film that would win a TIFF Audience Prize, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but there's no way a film would win a TIFF Audience Prize and a bunch of these other festival awards and not win a single Oscar. Like, I can't even think of a film that has done that before. And Cord Jefferson has been campaigning almost as much as Christopher Nolan has. Like, he has been out in full force in the circuit, and he managed. And the one thing that kind of tipped it over into American Fiction for me, which I surprisingly predicted too, he managed to beat out Poor Things, Zone of Interest, and Oppenheimer at the BAFTAs for adapted screenplay. And American Fiction was its only nomination there. This to me is giving me so much shade, so much of like a reminder of what happened with Coda when Coda beat out Power of the Dog for adapted screenplay. I'm not saying American Fiction is going to win Best Picture, although we'll get to that in a few minutes. But I do think that American Fiction is still strong enough to win the Oscar, and it hasn't lost any of the precursor guilds. It won the Critics' Choice, it won the BAFTA, it won the USC Scripter Award, and it probably would. I'm going to say right now, it's probably going to win the Writers Guild in April. Even though, yes, Oppenheimer is there, but like Cord Jefferson is a TV writer too, and he's also got his TV buddies there, and he's a previous winner as well. So yeah, I just feel like American Fiction is going to win adapted screenplay. I understand that there's some hesitation for that kind of film, but like that's the kind of film that wins this category. And if you're also looking for a film that has won in either categories of the screenplays without doing a festival run, Django Unchained was the last movie. That was the last movie since 2009, since we started the whole preferential ballot thing. It's the only film that has won a screenplay Oscar without doing a festival run. So I'm still, like I said, I'm sticking with American Fiction.
That's crazy. I gotta go with Oppenheimer.
Okay.
I it's too strong of a script. It just Nolan, and the thing is this. We know it's going to be winning a lot of awards. Now, the one thing I can see is them wanting to share the wealth, right? Because Oppenheimer is going to clean up all night. We all know that. Anywhere between 7 and 9. I could see them going with a different winner, like an American Fiction, like an Oppenheimer, or like a Barbie. Outside chance, by the way. I'm not. That's probably third or fourth. Okay. Or the Zone of Interest. So I can see that. Oppenheimer for me is too strong of a script.
Well, and the two things I want to bring up about, I'm glad you actually brought up the script for Oppenheimer. Have you seen a little film called The English Patient?
I haven't, but I know of it.
Okay.
1996, I want to say Binoche and
Ray Fiennes and
Ray Fiennes,
Thomas. Yeah.
Okay.
When I was rewatching Oppenheimer for a third time, I'm not sure if we ever discussed about this off air. So when I rewatched Oppenheimer for a third time, it immediately clicked in me. This is the English Patient of modern times, in that it's the kind of now hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of film that the Academy will recognize for its directing and the picture itself. It's a non-linear structured movie. It plays around with time. And a lot of what I've been hearing of people talk about with Oppenheimer is the way it's structured. However, the Adapted Screenplay Prize went to Sling Blade, about a mentally challenged person played by Billy Bob Thornton, who, it was like a surprise box.
Right. I know exactly. I remember the film.
And I just feel like this is reminding me way too much of that, where it's like, and even Ben-Hur, by the way, this Oppenheimer will break this record, but Ben-Hur was the last film to win picture and 2 acting prizes. And Ben-Hur even lost to Room at the Top for adapted screenplay. Like Ben-Hur of all movies won, like, I think it was like 11 Academy Awards. It won in every single category there was, and it lost adapted screenplay to another film. And I've talked with Clayton Davis too. Like, the American Fiction does have strength. It maybe not be as big as Oppenheimer, but it still has a party there. And the last point I'll make, and I even said this, I even made this case for when Nomadland came out. when I don't know if this is a coincidence or what. I don't know what it is or how these voters think. When we usually get a filmmaker winning picture, director, screenplay, like they're producing the film, they're directing it, and they're writing it.
Mm-hmm.
When they usually win those 3 Oscars, the next year they don't usually do it. Like they don't give the
Oh no,
same,
of course not.
like we had a couple of year gap. We had like a couple of years gap of No Country for Old Men, Birdman, Parasite to Everything Ever All at Once. Like like I said, I just feel like there's just too much strength for American Fiction, and the fact that it won the BAFTA award at its lone nomination over Oppenheimer. And Oppenheimer even dominated the BAFTAs too. So I'm like, I can't. I got to stay with American Fiction. I could see some hesitation for Oppenheimer, but like, I'm just going to stick with American Fiction.
Okay, so now let me play. I don't want to say devil's advocate, but if you had to choose, so your American Fiction is your winner. If you had to choose, and Oppenheimer is a close second. Mm-hmm. If you had to choose one of the other 3 films, Zone of Interest, Poor Things, or Barbie, and they said to me that one of those films was going to completely come out of the blue and win it, which one is it?
I actually think Zone of Interest could be a potential upsetter more than Barbie, just because Jonathan Glazer is also writing the script too. And I do think that while there's going to be a broad support, at least enough for Barbie to win song at least, I just feel like Zone of Interest could be the type of movie that there might be some voters out there that could go for that in an adapted screenplay. And honestly, that would be my Zone of Interest might be my personal pick of the lineup. I do really like American Fiction script. It does, admittedly, it does follow a screenplay formula though, that could turn a lot of audience members off, but to the voters, like, ooh, we love it. It's such catnip. Even the topics that they're discussing in this, like, I kid you not, like, I wasn't even finished with the movie with American Fiction. I was like, this is winning adapted screenplay. Like, it's over. It's done.
Nice.
But if there is going to be an upset, it's going to be from Oppenheimer more so than Barbie or Poor Things or Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so now that we've got the screenplay nominations out of the way and all that, that was like the lowest, not the lowest, but that was like the last of the those kind of things. Now we're going to start and get into the juicy stuff. Now, truth be told, there is 1 or 2 of these that are just locks. We're still going to talk about them, but we both agree, and that's it. The first one we're going to talk about, and I'm not even going to bring up the nominees because it's not even worth the time of day. Christopher Nolan. This is his Oscar. He's already preparing his speech. He's already, they're going to give him a couple minutes, and we've already seen the speeches he's given at the Globes and other places. This is his Oscar. This hands down is his Oscar, and congratulations to him, because he is one of those directors over the past 20, 25 years. I mean, even going back to Inception or Insomnia or Memento, that is just a phenomenal filmmaker. And of course, when you couple in a film like The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, and he does a whole thing like that, and then on top of that, he can turn around and do something as good, amazing as Oppenheimer. And it's just, he is a filmmaker's filmmaker. He's a professional's professional, and he works unbelievably. I mean, there he is winning the
Director's
DBA
Guild
award, and it's just like, this is a no-brainer for me. This is an absolute no-brainer. So, you're in agreement with me.
Unfortunately, to be fair, I'm happy that he's finally winning an Oscar for director and picture. It's great to see him winning at least 2 Oscars. I still stand by my stance of this being his top 4 films of his career. I've seen everything he's done in the feature films. I've seen Following, I've seen Insomnia, I've seen The Prestige, even Interstellar, unfortunately. And I think that this is easily his top 4 movie, top 4 of his. It's weird. It's reminding me a lot of what happened with The Departed with Scorsese. Yeah, where it's like, it's almost like he managed to. Scorsese is another director, which is also competing with Nolan, and sorry to Glazer, Lanthimos, and Trier, but you must know
Yeah,
at this point you're not winning.
exactly.
But like,
Exactly.
but yeah, so like Scorsese though, Nolan has been the kind of director that has been respected in the crafts for his movies, but never for his above the line work. And I want to point out to Brian Rowe, he pointed out in his elusive Oscar video on his show that part of the reason why Nolan's about to win his directing Oscar for this, outside of this being a box office hit, it was the biggest movie outside of Barbie that was that made a lot of money and had a lot of older and younger audiences go see it. It's the first film of Nolan's to have above the line, competition, like it got 3 nominations. It is competitive in adapted screenplay. It does, much like Scorsese, it's almost like, all right, there's no competition and we kind of just have to give it to Nolan, even though I've been hearing some anonymous ballots of like saying, I don't want to give Nolan, I'm not even going to bother voting for his movie at all. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And yeah, I don't know. This is also another weird reminder of what happened with Del Toro for The Shape of Water. 13 nominations, got 3 acting nominations, and took home a handful of prizes. And Del Toro also swept the director's precursors that year. And yeah, Nolan's about to win his first Oscar, so
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah, I just now let me ask you this. Everybody, we always like to see actors change it up and actresses change it up and everything else. There have been hints and rumors, and take it with a grain of salt because I don't know anything. What would you think about Christopher Nolan directing a Bond film?
I don't think it's ever going to happen. And I think the one film that he did do that was kind of a Bond movie was Tenet. Like, it was a Bond-like movie in his own way.
Right.
And
right.
they're just never going to let him do it. And I think he's accepted that. Well, I don't even think he wanted to do a Bond movie, but yeah. So if he just wants to create, more original, thought-provoking movies that are trying to be different and not focus on intellectual properties, then cool. I mean, like I said, he's about to win at least 2 Oscars,
at least
and
2.
yeah, and so it'll be nice to see. I'm curious to know what his next project is going to be, because I am curious to know what's going to be his next movie after he's now a newly minted Academy Award winner, 2-time winner at least. So.
Yeah. That will be interesting to see. Okay, so we wanted to get director out of the way because that was basically like
the easiest predictions.
The easiest of the bunch. Okay, so this is going to be the other lock that we're going to talk about here, above the line, so to speak.
Yeah.
This is actor. Actress. This is the other one that's just a lock. For me, it's a lock all day long and twice on Sunday. Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, and she was good in it. Okay. Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple. America Ferrera for Barbie. Jodie Foster for Nyad. Okay. 2-time Academy Award winner. And Divine Joy Randolph. Yeah. I mean, who do you have winning the Oscar here?
Yeah, it's going to be Randolph. She's going to win the Oscar. I really don't like this lineup pretty much at all. I think the only one maybe only 2 I would have kept is just maybe Foster, because she was like the one decent thing about Nyad, which I really hated the film. I actually think Blunt's giving good work, providing good work here.
Yeah.
Even though it's a very stereotypical kind of role, and that's the other thing that kind of hurts the screenplay chances, is that it's not really favoring the women characters any much. But then again, you can also make the comment of like American Fiction has this like biting satire, but it's too broadly told. But like, yeah, so I don't know. It is going to be Divine Joy Randolph, but if you ask for like my personal pick of the category here, I guess I'd go with Blunt. But
yeah, yeah, I think that this is a no-brainer. I think it's Divine Joy Randolph all day long. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but she hasn't lost one of the precursors yet.
It's funny too, because I think Eric Anderson and Ryan McQuaid were talking about on Awards Watch, I think it was, and they were talking about how it's so shocking that Divine Joy Randolph has just won not just the precursor awards, but like even the majority of the critics' prizes. Like, I think the only thing she lost was maybe like the Gotham Award to Charles Melton for May December, and maybe something else. But like, she has won every single supporting prize, and if she and there was at least, I think like maybe LA film critics, they might have tied her with Rachel McAdams for Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. But it's nuts that
I would
she
love to
won
see her
everything.
mantle. I would love to see her mantle.
Yeah, that's oh god.
I mean, I would love. I mean, she could put that little golden, statuette by it, but I would love to see her mantle because it has got to be littered, or her awards case, because it has to be riddled with awards from everything from Oscars to BAFTAs to Globes to everything.
Yeah.
So this is a no-brainer for me. This is Divine Jordan Randolph all day long. And congratulations to her. So
Sure.
the other no-brainer that I was just talking about, and you just saw guys pop up briefly. Okay, so that I did that. There we go. So here we go. Actor. Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. Who do you think is going to win? And I think we're in agreement. Who do you think is good? Who deserves to win?
Downey Jr. is going to win this. He swept everything he needs to sweep.
Yeah. Great.
If I had to pick a supporting, oh god, yeah, this is actually a good lineup. I think. I like Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction. I understand that it's not really like a very, like, I guess it's a very dated role, but then again, the novel that American Fiction was based off of was pretty dated. Robert De Niro's delivering some great work in Killers of the Flower Moon. I really like Ruffalo and Poor Things. It might be my favorite.
Yeah, he was good.
What he's been nominated for. You've seen Poor Things, right?
I have seen Poor Things. It was
okay. We'll talk off air about that though.
Okay.
And Gosling and Barbie. Like I said, I just rewatched Barbie last night. I love Gosling in that movie, and I would totally be okay with him, upsetting for supporting actor. Yeah. But it is going to be Downey Jr. at the Oscars. But Gosling is really, really good. Like even the comedic bits that I don't think quite work for me, he's so committed to that role though. And I love that so much. So yeah, it's going to be Downey though.
I agree. RDJ is going to win his Oscar, and like I said, I've seen 4 out of the 5 films here. So the only one I haven't seen is American Fiction. I saw De Niro, and of the performances I saw, I think it's Downey Jr.
Yeah,
I think it's Robert Downey Jr. His performance was just, from when he was on screen, he captured the screen. Well, Mark Ruffalo was good.
Yeah,
Gosling, Barbie and Poor Things are different movies. I'm going to quote different movies.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, they're outstanding movies for what they are. However, the Academy likes a certain kind of performance. Okay. And this is right up his alley. And I think honestly, he just blows it away.
Well, and I think what also helped Downey Jr. with his chances was really the last hour of the movie, because up to that point, he's not in it a whole lot. But the moment that it's revealed, if for anyone who hasn't seen Oppenheimer, there's sort of this, sudden turn of events, so to speak, for Downey. And it's revealed, he's actually this other side of him that we never, some of us never really suspected. But Downey Jr. just plays a pretty good job with it. And the other thing too about it is kind of a career window. Like, it is a part of like a big behemoth of a movie. But on top of that, it's the first dramatic role he's doing now that he's done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's, he did the shitty Doolittle movie that came out like 2020. That I guess caused the pandemic. I'm kidding. Don't spread theory. Yeah, no, I'm not. But like, it's like, again, it just shows like the first time he's actually been a dramatic actor. It's like, you can actually act, and you're not in the silly get up suits.
Here's the thing, and I've said this about like Tom Cruise, but Downey especially. First of all, his father was an actor. Okay.
Yes.
But moreover than that, okay, when you take a look at his body of work, I'm talking about Robert Downey's now.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. When you take a look at his body of work, he has some very impressive roles. I mean, he's done Chaplin. Okay. He's done Zodiac. People forget he was in Natural Born Killers. Okay, you know, he did The Judge, so he has acting chops.
He
Okay, he
does.
can dramatically act, and I think that there's a when you have an actor that's an action star for exponential, a long period of time, people forget it's like Tom Cruise. Okay, he can do Jerry Maguire, he can do Magnolia, he can do The Last Samurai. I mean, it was just on the other night, Collateral. He was amazing in this. Born on the 4th of July. He can act. And
Yeah.
that's the thing about Robert Downey Jr. And I think that's one of the biggest things about him, because everybody that is 18 to 25 or 18 to 34, they only see him as Iron Man.
Yeah.
They don't see him in Zodiac, or they don't see him in The Judge, or they don't see him in, and it's like, this guy is a professional. And I'm so glad. And you're right about one other thing you said, and that was this. Up until the last hour, we rarely saw him.
Yeah.
And so I think, that all being said, that scene in the office, after what had happened, that was going to be, and I really hope that's something the Academy does go back to, is show clips of the performances.
Yeah,
But
I don't know if they're going to, especially with each actor doing a presentation of like each of the performances. They might even do like a highlight reel at best for those.
yeah, so, but I think that Downey Jr., this is his Oscar to win, and congratulations. And at the end of the day, like you said, it's a crowning achievement for him.
And
Okay,
it is
guys.
like, well, one last thing I'll say real quick
Yeah.
is it is kind of like one of the biggest comeback stories you've ever seen in Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely.
Who
you
see
doesn't
this
love a
guy,
comeback story?
yeah, like like he already had a good comeback story with Marvel, but like now that he's done with Marvel and he's like, he did like all the problems he had, do Marvel, take a risk on him, become the biggest franchise, and now he's winning an Oscar.
Well,
And what I find even funny too is that Downey and Nolan, the year that they made like two comic book movies that sort of changed the way comic book movies are made with The Dark Knight and Iron Man, and now they're like they stepped away from it, we're done with it, and we're actually going to win Oscars. And meanwhile, the comic book, stuff is kind of in shambles a little, which I find so
by the
funny.
way, guys, that's a perfect segue. By the way, guys, this is March, and starting on Saturday, I said it was going to be today, but starting on Saturday, guys, okay, we are going to do Marvel March. Okay, so that being said, the very first film I'm going to do for Marvel March is Iron Man, because that's what got it all started.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm going to go back and do films like Infinity War, Endgame, Winter Soldier, all these films for Marvel, because when you know the backstory about how Marvel Studios got its start, it's really interesting. And that being said, but the fact that you're right, when they came out with the same, two comic book films in the same year in 2008, and they both changed the industry in different ways. Of course, Iron Man started the whole MCU, and we all know why we have 10 Best Picture nominees, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes.
Well, and it was also because of The Dark Knight as well. But yeah, anyways.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is because so quickly, for anybody who's not familiar with it, that a lot of people were blown away that The Dark Knight did not get nominated for Best Picture. And up until that point, there had only been 5 nominees. And the next year or 2 years later, the Academy said, okay, we're going to expand the field to 10. And that's what we have today. Okay, guys.
So the whole preferential ballot thing, yeah.
Yep. So we have three categories left. Okay. The first of the 3, Best Actress. Okay. I have my thoughts. He's going to have his thoughts. I think this is a 2-woman race. Okay. But for the nominees, we've got Annette Bening for Nyad. Okay. We've got Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Sandra Huller for Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan for Maestro. And, of course, Emma Stone for Poor Things. And the Oscar goes to...
No, you say yours first. I want to hear your. No, you go ahead.
I think it's Lily Gladstone. I think it's Lily Gladstone. Look, I personally did not care for Killers of the Flower Moon for what it was, the length of it and everything else. But when you look at her performance, her performance throughout the whole thing, especially the last 2/3 of that movie, or the last half of that movie, it was unbelievable. Now, all that being said, Emma Stone gave a different performance. Poor Things is a different movie. It's still a fantastic performance. I'm not disputing that. And she did get recognition.
Yeah.
But the fact that, and let's face it, the SAG, which is voted on by the actors, okay, her not winning the SAG, and by the way, guys, she's, I want to say 34, but that's irrelevant. She already has an Oscar to her credit. Okay. So, I mean, I could see Emma Stone. I'm not saying this is going to be the trajectory of her career. I could see Emma Stone being like a Jennifer Lawrence who wins one and then gets nominated year after year after year after year. Whereas at Gladstone,
Yeah.
I think if she wants to, and I'm sure she can, will continue acting. But this is going to be such a momentous, big thing, not just because she's the first Native American and everything else, just because of the whole performance she gave. Based on the two performances, and that's what I'm doing, basing on the two performances, I'm going with Lily Gladstone. That's just me personally. Where do you stand on this, Matthew?
I want to give a shout out to Zeddy. I'm going to throw him under the bus. Nick Zednick, if you're out there, buddy, I'm throwing you under the bus for this. I remember, long story short, I had seen Poor Things, and I think I already rambled about this on SAG, so I'll try to keep it short. I saw Poor Things, and I said to him, I'm not sure if the Academy is going to give that film a single Oscar, let alone give Emma Stone her Oscar, because it's just too weird of a movie, and it's going to turn off a lot of old guard voters, especially in the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie. And so he was so certain this whole time. He was so certain that Emma Stone was going to win her second Oscar. I said, fine, I will join the prediction under one condition. If she is going to sweep to her, if she's going to get her second Oscar, she has to pull a sweep. And if she misses one televised award, I'm not predicting her anymore. She missed SAG. I'm no longer predicting her. I'm predicting Lily Gladstone. And a lot of it is because of the momentum. And what does help is that when it's during Oscar voting, a speech could really help you win or lose. We saw that last year with Jamie Lee Curtis and Michelle Yeoh. They gave incredible speeches and they got themselves their Oscar wins. And what also helped too was the fact that, maybe this was a case of like, if Lily Gladstone does win this could be a case of, we already knew she was winning this, and therefore, but we're still going to give the like other televised awards, like Emma Stone's in her own category. We'll give her the Golden Globe there. Critics' Choice, we'll give it to Emma Stone there. And then BAFTA, because it's BAFTA, we'll give her the vote. But even Emma Stone, I wonder if Emma Stone is even rooting for Lily Gladstone more than Emma.
I would imagine.
Because it was like this last year with Cate Blanchett, where she won the Golden Globe in her own category. She won Critics' Choice. She won BAFTA, and she lost SAG to the eventual Oscar winner. But unlike last year, though, we don't have a Best Picture frontrunner. So like this could potentially be the only win that either Poor Things or Killers of the Flower Moon does. But I'm not that I'm confident in this, but I feel more comfortable predicting Lily Gladstone to upset here. And if she wins this, if Lily Gladstone wins this, it's going to be deserved, in my opinion. Unlike David here, I actually really enjoyed Killers of the Flower Moon a lot. I've seen it twice now. I might actually try to watch it a third time before the end of the year. But I thought she was fantastic in the role, and she really was the heart and soul of the film. And it weirdly reminded me a lot of what happened with Olivia Colman, where much like her, she won the last Final Precursor televised award. And even though she's not in, just like Olivia Colman in The Favorite, Lily Gladstone isn't in, much like Olivia Colman in The Favorite, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon isn't in it nearly as much as the other actors, but you feel her presence missing. Like you feel like she's there all throughout, even when they're not talking about her or whatever. She's in the back, her presence is felt in the background. And once again, I had my grandma's friend had seen Killers of the Flower Moon. They weren't really that into the film, but whenever she was on screen, they're like, oh my God, she was great. And that immediately should have clued me off that she was winning the Oscar, or she might. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe Emma Stone could surprise. But I have a sneaky feeling that Lily Gladstone's going to win the Oscar for this. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think her performance is incredible. By the way, it's not that I didn't like her performance.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's the
I've
movie.
seen like Leonardo DiCaprio's performance. I never saw anything. It's not like he transformed. Yeah, he moved. His character moved a little, or De Niro's, or it wasn't. It wasn't. I think length had me at 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, even though I've seen films. I mean, like Dune Part Two was almost 3 hours. It was the pacing of the film for me. That was a real. I'm like, there are some films where just flies
3
by.
hour. Yeah.
And then there are others who are like, oh my God, I'm only an hour in this movie. What the hell's going on? So I think that was the biggest thing for me. And when you couple that with the characters and everything else, that was what it. But for me, she was the standout of the movie. And I'm picking Gladstone to win this. And it's just, I can't wait. Now, outside just random thing, if you had to pick one of the other three actresses, and this wasn't going to happen, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one of the three other actresses, Annette Bening, Sandra Hüller, or Carey Mulligan to win the Oscar, who are you picking?
I actually think Sandra Hüller is probably in third place, just because I am hearing some people that she's gaining a fair amount of momentum from the international votes. But then again, I could also see a case where Emma Stone is kind of siphoning some of that international voting block too, to where I could see a way for Lily Gladstone to still win this. And for all we know, maybe this is a case of like Hopkins for the Father, where it's like it was always going to be her the whole time, and the other precursors like, oh, that's nice, she got those awards. Now, let's give out the final award. The final award, and who will win the Oscar is this person.
Yeah.
So
So we got two left, guys. We got two left, and we got the big ones coming up. Best Actor.
Yep.
We all know. Now, is it okay for you to tell our viewers the bet you had now? Or are you going to wait until... Okay, so after...
Well, no. You know what? Hold on. You know what? Let's wait until March 10th or whatever.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
We're already running late on as it is.
So. Okay, so we have 5 nominees. Okay, this is Bradley Cooper, which is going to be his 5th nomination. Okay, his 5th nomination.
Acting nomination, yeah.
Acting nomination. I mean, he's got many others, but his 5th acting nomination. Colman Domingo for Rustin. Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. And Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Who are you going with?
Cillian Murphy. The only thing he stumbled at was Critics' Choice, but he rebounded with the 2 industry prizes, which were BAFTA and SAG. You win those. Sorry, it's over. The only 2 in the lead actor who has won those 2 and lost the Oscar were Day-Lewis, who didn't even sweep the awards, and Russell Crowe, who threw a phone at a BAFTA executive backstage while Oscar voting was going on. So, and Cillian Murphy hasn't caused any reprehensible damage unless he pulls a Will Smith on Oscar night and slaps someone.
Yeah.
But I imagine he'll be a good boy. So
yeah, I'm going with Cillian Murphy here.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a month or two ago before Murphy won SAG where I thought there was a world where The Holdovers could possibly, like 1 percentage point, win Best Picture, but no, and that's long gone. But that all being said, I think that this is Cillian Murphy's, and so that is, and I think the thing for Bradley Cooper is this. He's a phenomenal artist. And you said something to me a while back, and I think you're right. He needs to just stay in front of the camera. He took 5 years of his life to make this movie. And by the way, it's a good movie. I'm not disputing.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah.
It's a great movie. I mean, look, it's gotten multiple Oscar nominations. Okay, he's produced it, directed, starred in it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing is, He just needs to focus on it in front of the camera. Now you say, well, David, he's already gotten 4 nominations and hasn't won once. Well, take a look at what the competition he's been up against. 2012, he was never, ever going to win against Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln. Okay. Yeah. That being said, then you had American Hustle the next year. Okay. Then you had Americans, you had American Sniper. Then in 2018, A Star is Born. That was his directorial debut. Yeah. And obviously, anybody could tell you when you come out of the blocks, you have to put everything you have into it. Okay. I mean, look at Jordan Peele, with Get Out. I mean, look at, I could run down a litany of directors that have started.
We'd be here all night.
Exactly. That all being said, you have to come out of the blocks hot. So everybody is anticipating your next feature film. That all being said, he took 5 years to make. I mean, he's even said it. Yeah. He was working on he was just starting the research and everything on Maestro when he was doing post for A Star is Born.
And then he was also in the middle. Yeah. And the other thing too is that he worked on Nightmare Alley to produce with Del Toro, and Del Toro even recommended Cooper to work with him on Nightmare Alley, just so you can get a little bit more of skill in terms of like the production value and what goes into it. He also worked with Paul Thomas Anderson, Licorice Pizza, but he's got there's so many factors that were against him this year, but like the biggest one I think that really hurt him the most was him acting and him directing himself into an Oscar baity role, and they'd rather you do either just the directing bit or the acting bit. You can't do both.
So he just took on too much stuff.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. But okay, guys. So we're here. This is what everybody's been waiting for the whole stream, and this is what you're going to be watching for. And I'd love to see what the over-under and what we all think the time is going to be. But nonetheless, the last award of the night. This is the one that everybody's looking forward to. Okay. Best Picture. Now.
Yeah. This is done.
As I said before, because of The Dark Knight, they expanded it to 10. And we've got the preferential ballots and everything else. We've got American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Who is your Best Picture winner of the 2023?
This is actually a pretty good lineup, I got to say. When like the weakest nominees are like Past Lives, Holdovers, and Barbie, it's like you're doing pretty good. You don't have your Elvis, you don't have a Don't Look Up, you don't have a Bohemian Rhapsody.
There's no fat there. There's no fat. There's no fat.
So yeah, my pick personally would be Oppenheimer. It is going to win Best Picture. It swept. It won the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, the BAFTA. It won the Producers Guild Prize, which is also the exact same 10 nominees, by the way, as the Oscars, and they even use the same preferential balloting. I wouldn't even be surprised if Oppenheimer managed to win on the first round, because the way the voting goes is that someone else will have a better time, probably have a better time explaining this, but essentially you're going by what's the film that has the second most votes, in that of the films that, because they rank them all by like which one has like 51% of the vote overall tally or whatever. Like that's what gets you the Oscar. And they always do these rounds of like, we gotta keep it up with the rounds, keep it going. And I just think that Oppenheimer is just going to be one of those times like last year where it's like, okay, like Everything Ever Rolled Once, you're going to win in the first round and you have no competition. If we're sort of challenging ourselves of what's a potential runner-up, I'm going to say either American Fiction or Anatomy of a Fall could be potential runner-ups, because they both have screenplay nominations. They have 5 nominations altogether. Well, separately. And then either Poor Things or Barbie, whichever film wins the second most Oscars. I'm going to say either of them could be another potential runner-up. But even then, it's such a distant runner-up.
Yeah, I mean, you have one, and then you have everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
yeah, I'm picking Oppenheimer here. I think that this is a no-brainer. Yeah. If I were going to pick anything else, look, maybe The Holdovers, because as you said, it's got a screenplay nomination. It's going to have an Academy Award winner in Divine Joy Randolph. Poor Things. I mean, So, do you want to put out the hot take that you wanted to now? Because here's the thing.
Well,
okay, so here's the
sorry,
thing. Here's the thing. I think that you can kind of do process of elimination with these. Okay, I look. Maestro getting a Best Picture is fantastic. It's got no chance.
It was never going to win.
It's never gonna, never is. It might win hair and makeup. That's it. Poor Things probably isn't going to win just because. I mean, we've talked about it over the past hour and a half. It's just not going to go home with anything, or that's what it looks like because the competition is too stiff. Killers of the Flower Moon, unlikely because even though it has costume and everything else, it doesn't have any besides De Niro. It doesn't have anybody that's, I mean, DiCaprio's not in there. Yes, you have Lily Gladstone.
It's got one chance at winning. It's Lily, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. Barbie, forget. I hate to say this, but Barbie's done. Okay.
Yeah, it was never going to win.
It was never going to win. It had. I mean, look, in order for Barbie to have a shot to win Best Picture, and that's a whole other show for another time. Margot had to get nominated, and Greta had to get nominated, and neither of those two things happened. So that's out the door. The only other picture I could see winning, maybe, possibly, and I said this earlier, I could see a world where The Holdovers wins, and this is why. Screenplay, Divine Joy Randolph winning, okay, and
Paul Giamatti.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, by the way, guys, we've had Best Picture winners before. Okay, go back to 2015, where Spotlight won Best Original or Best Screenplay, won Best Picture. We've also had a world where there has been no Best Director nomination in Argo. Okay. And Argo ended up winning Best Picture. So there are ways. It's very slight, but there are ways for these films to get there. Is it difficult? Absolutely. Is it improbable? Definitely. But there is a road there. That all being said, if I had to pick one film, it would be The Holdovers to upset.
I was going to say I think part of the reason why Oppenheimer hasn't been dethroned for Best Picture yet is because I always considered it to be like The Power of the Dog or Roma, where it's the most respected film of the lineup, but it's not really can't really give you any more wins outside of like director and maybe some tech categories. But this year it's Zone of Interest, where it's like respected film. We appreciate what you did, Jonathan Glazer, but here's your international prize, and that's it. And that's all it's going to win. But the fact that Oppenheimer managed to get like an audience, again, older and newer and younger audiences there, it made a ton of money. And stumbled into making almost $1 billion. It's nuts. As far as my hot take, do you want me to bring it up now for Poor Things?
Yeah, it's up to you.
So I after SAG, and I really thought about this really long and hard. I even talked about it with Adam Clay as well about it, and I know he's kind of telling me it's impossible for this scenario to happen, and maybe it is. I really do think Poor Things could go home with nothing. The thing what kind of turned me over into not predicting it to win a single Oscar was SAG. And the fact that when I started thinking about it more and more that Saturday night or whenever we were talking about the Oscars or that's event, I kept thinking to myself, this is reminding me of way too much of what happened last year with Elvis and Banshees of Inisherin, where did I bring this up to you at all? My reasons for this?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I don't think so.
So like Elvis and Banshees, they won decently at the Golden Globes. Critics' Choice, they gave Emma Stone one win. I get it. Critics' Choice was, kind of having a hard on for Barbie, but still, it's like, sorry, I should phrasing. Sorry about that.
No, that's phrasing. Okay.
But Elvis only won one award there, which was makeup, and Emma Stone only won lead actress there. BAFTA, it did well enough. Like Barbie, Poor Things, and was able to do well enough, but it couldn't even win British film, which is something that even Banshees was able to do really well. And then I just kept thinking about it more, and I'm like, maybe maybe it is kind of a way of SAG telling us of like the actors branch respects Poor Things, but they don't love it that much. And I can't confidently predict it to win just production design and costumes. I have a feeling it's going to be Barbie because it's Jacqueline Duran, who's a 2-time Oscar winner. And now that and I've always had like ever since I saw the movie, I see where people are coming from, and that Poor Things is not like Everything Ever Rolled Once, where Poor Things, excuse me, Everything Ever Rolled Once has this like weird factor to it, but it doesn't have this emotional core to it that makes the audience emotionally like, be very emotional about the characters and root for them. It doesn't have that like underdog factor, so to speak, like Everything Ever Rolled Once does. Poor Things is weird, but like I said, it does not appeal to the old guard voters, and you could say the same thing about Everything Ever Rolled Once, but that was like, I don't know, like Everything Ever Rolled Once was the kind of movie that wins Best Picture on other years. It's like an underdog kind of movie, like Oppenheimer is this year, somewhat. And it's more of a like, I feel comfortable predicting Poor Things to go home with nothing. Which, if it does, it'll be the first film since The Turning Point and The Color Purple to do it. And I find it ironic too, because the last time a film got 0 for 11 was Color Purple, and what's nominated in the supporting actress category?
The Color Purple,
which is a remake. So it's possible, but that Poor Things could win something. I could be wrong, but I don't feel confident in it. And even makeup, I'm like, I just don't see it happening. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this lineup it's stacked and everything else. I mean, I have my personal opinion is they should knock it down to 7. That's just me speaking personally. I think 10 is too many because there are some here that have absolutely no chance of winning. And if you want to, it looks good for marketing. Nominated for Best Picture, but at the same time, realistically, I mean, I go back to one of the major thing that happened for Marvel. Speaking of Marvel, going back to that earlier, was Black Panther. Like Black Panther, when that got nominated for Best Picture, that was like, oh my God, they really,
Yeah.
and it had cultural significance and everything else. I get it, but and it was $1 billion film and everything else. But at the same time, it had no chance of winning. There was never a world, ever, it was going to win. That all being said, I think they really need to cut it down to 7. And when you have 7 there, you still have a couple
Best Picture nominees?
Yes.
I'd rather have it to be a 10 than a sliding scale, because sliding scale is always tough, and you always have snubs that come in left and right where it's like, this film should have gotten in, or this film. And it's
but see, 10 to me is just
it's overkill. I get it, but if we're gonna lower it and not do 10, then we go back to 5. But we're never gonna do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's either 7 or 8 for me. Yeah, it's either 7 or 8 for me. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, but I think we're both in agreement. So as we wrap this up, okay, I think that for me, and I've said it before, I think Oppenheimer is going to win between 7 and 9 Oscars. I mean, we've gone through it over the past 2 hours. Picture, actor, supporting actor, director, and we've run the gamut, okay? Barbie, for me, has a chance to win 3. Original song, production design, and costume. Holdovers is at least going home with 1. It could go home with as many as 3. With Giamatti and screenplay too.
I wouldn't predict it though.
I wouldn't. I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket, but I'm just saying, could go home as many as 3. It's going home with at least 1. We know that. This was a good year. One final question I have before we get going, and that's this:
Sure.
Do you think Oppenheimer would have had the success that it had if it weren't for Barbie?
I mean,
because look, it's an incredible film, and we all know that. But the biggest thing, and it's been memed, it's been talked about, it's been written about, is Barbenheimer. And without Barbie, we don't have Oppenheimer.
But I do think that Oppenheimer managed like that made enough money as it did, not just because of Barbie, but also had the legs it did because there wasn't another big movie coming out for the fall because of the two creative strikes going on with WGA and SAG. And I think that really increased a healthy amount of Oppenheimer's chances of winning Best Picture. And it was the only movie to make any kind of money. Like we had box office flops left and right with like Mission Impossible, The Flash, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean those were always going to be doomed. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've always wondered that because look, and I think that Oppenheimer is just head and shoulders. Oppenheimer is head and shoulders above everything else. And the last thing is this, you know, we talk about films all the time, and I've even asked him this outside of this, is the way I look at films is the here and now and the 5 and 10 years later. You know, and I'm doing retrospectives on the channel and everything else. How do you think Oppenheimer is going to be viewed 10 years from now?
Oh, it's going to age pretty well. Even as a Best Picture winner, I think it's going to age fairly well. Even if it isn't Nolan's best movie, in my opinion, but it's going to age well. The one question I know, maybe I don't know if you're going to answer this at all, but if I could just real quick just go over my other predictions I made for
Go
the
for it.
categories we didn't go through in full. Documentary feature, I'm predicting for 20 Days of Mariupol. If there's an upset, it's maybe Bobby Wine or Four Daughters. Animated short, I'm predicting War is Over. Documentary short right now, I'm predicting for The Last Repair Shop, and live action short. I could see a world where Red, White, and Blue could win it because it's a very topical subject matter, but it's also another like depressing short too. And but I'm just gonna go with The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. I could be wrong, but you know, just because like a lot of these people abstain from voting in the shorts, or they just vote on like, oh, there's like a big name involved. Okay, I'll vote for that person. Or, oh, it's a topical subject matter. I'll vote for this. So we'll see what happens with the shorts. I could be wrong with those categories, but whatever.
Yeah.
Any other questions you had?
No, that's about it. I mean, this was always fun. I'm gonna be looking
Oh, yeah.
forward to Sunday, just like millions of other Americans, and find out what transpires. So, guys, couple of things. When the Oscars are over, come back here because we're going to do. Matthew is more than welcome to come back in. We're going to do a wrap up show.
Yes.
And I mean, some of the stuff. Look, we've agreed it's a lock, and then that's it. But there are going to be, I think there are going to be a couple of categories that are going to be unexpected. I mean, all you got to do is look at all you got to do is take a look at All Quiet on the Western Front last year. You know, it ended up winning for 3 or 4 Oscars, and it upheaved everything for a little bit until things settled down. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about who should have won possibly, because
or what
there
happened.
has never been an Oscar. There has never been one Oscar cycle that I've ever seen where every single Oscar has gone to the person that's deserved.
Yeah, it's like 9 out of 10 times they always give it. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the upsets. We're going to talk about everything else about that. So stay tuned for that. So that will be after the broadcast, and I'll put out tweets and do social media about that. Also, coming up on the channel, we've got a ton of stuff. So like I said on Saturday, I had to push it back because of this stream here. But coming up on the channel, we are going to have Marvel March. And we talked about it earlier. 2008 is a big year, not only for The Dark Knight, but for the MCU starting. And that was Iron Man. And I'm going to be sitting down talking all about Iron Man, giving my thoughts about it and why it is the juggernaut that the MCU is the juggernaut that it is. That's first and foremost. Also, you know, I'm still working on different episodes for Anatomy of a Movie. I'm going to be putting those out as I can. I mean, not as regularly, but as I can. I've got a ton of different ideas for that. Guys, don't forget, I'm going to be doing a spoiler cast for all these big movies coming out. Okay, go check out. I'll leave the description up there for Dune Part 2. If you haven't seen that already, I really believe, and I'm going to put this out there right now, Oh, he left. I'm going to put this out there right now to everybody. Dune Part 2 is going to be this year's Oppenheimer.
We'll
Hands
see.
down. I really, truly believe Dune Part 2 is going to be this year's Oppenheimer. And mark my words on that. It is an absolute breathtaking masterpiece. Denis Villeneuve is going to get nominated for Best Director. It's going to get a ton of tech nominations, and it's going to get a Best Picture nomination.
It's like, David, it's March. We haven't even
I know.
ended the Oscars.
And look,
It's
after
way
the
too early.
Olympics,
We don't even
we're
know
going
what
to start
the
this
competition
whole
is going
thing
to
all
be.
over again. No, I know that. But when you
I'm
come
just
back
gonna-
here next year, I'm going to be like, I told you so.
Or I will tell you, no, I told you so. They don't like populist picks. And
Yeah. But nonetheless, yeah. So, but seriously, guys, if you haven't seen Dune Part 2, go check it out in theaters. It's a remarkable film. I want to go see it again myself. And then, of course, we have all the retrospectives coming up. You know, not only that, I'm gonna be doing movies like Gremlins, The Karate Kid, The Terminator. You know, I mean, not just from 1984; those three were from '84. But I've got a ton of other films. I'm gonna be doing like Joker, Batman 1989, a ton of other stuff. Collateral, which turned 20 this year. God, I'm getting old. But nonetheless, guys, that's what's coming up in the channel. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about before we head out today, and it's an important thing, okay? And it's about memberships. And I'm going to try and find this here real quick. So memberships, why are they important, you say? Because here's the thing. Memberships are what's going to keep this channel going. And that being said, and Matthew can actually look into this if he wanted to, but nonetheless, memberships are extremely important because here's the thing, that it's one of those things that is not only going to keep this channel going, but it's going to tell me you guys believe in me. And that being said, I made this extremely cheap for everybody. And so it is free for you to join. Okay. And the 3 membership levels that I have are $2.99 a month, $5.99 or $6.99 a month. Okay. And $2.99 a month, $5.99 a month, and $9.99 a month. And right as you can see, it says free. Okay. It is absolutely free for you guys to join. If you guys join for the first month, it's not going to cost you a dime. If you don't like the content that I'm putting out, okay, you don't have to stay subscribed. But if you do, I would deeply appreciate it. Okay. Because here's the thing. I'm trying to get, this is a side hustle for me. And I'm trying to get this on as many eyeballs as I possibly can. So whether you like and subscribe, which by the way, guys, you should like and subscribe so you never miss a video, or you actually do become a member. Okay. The simple fact of the matter is that tells me A, you believe in me, B, you like the content, and C, I'm going to keep it coming for you guys. That all being said, I do have goals. The first goal is I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of 2024, hashtag road to 2,000. The second thing is I'm trying to hit between 15 to 20 paid memberships after the first month by the end of 2024. And I think that's completely attainable with your help. If in fact nothing else, please hit that like and subscribe button. And I can't overstate that enough, because what ends up happening is that when you do hit that like and subscribe button, it gets the content out there to eyeballs. Even all those people that came in briefly and saw this is going to be in the recommendations now. And they're going to see all these things. And this is what I want to provide, the best entertainment. Okay. Whether it is retrospectives, whether it is interviews, whether it is anatomy of a movie, whether it is something like the prediction show, whether we do have Matthew back on for interviews and everything else. This is what I'm trying to do, guys. This is what I love movies. This is my passion. Check out all the spoiler casts. There's a ton of spoiler casts on there. Okay. We just did one for Dune Part 2. Going to be doing many spoiler casts this upcoming year. All that being said, I would like you guys to believe in me. And that is the big thing. I wanted to get to one comment here because Antonius has been watching for the past 2 hours. Thank you. The Terminator, you speak to my heart, David. Yeah, it's an absolute genius film that 40 years ago, I can't even believe it's been 40 years. You know, we've got, I just did Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I'm going to be doing Gremlins. I'm going to be doing Karate Kid. You know, I mean, those two movies changed the nature of cinema with the PG-13 rating. You know, The Terminator is another fantastic film. Okay, really in the science fiction genre. So, absolutely, I'm going to be doing a whole retrospective just about the Terminator. You know, I mean, some believe, and probably have to go back and rewatch it, but the Terminator 2 T2 is Judgment Day is a perfect movie, and I tend to agree. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I tend to agree. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for me. That is going to do it for Matthew. Thank you very much for hanging in there. For all those who came in, even if they stayed for a couple minutes, I hope you enjoyed our talk and our analysis of the Oscars. For all those that stayed for the full 2 hours, you guys are warriors. You guys are marathoners. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for the next stream coming up on Friday. That's going to be Iron Man. And yeah, that's going to do it. One last thing. Have a great night. Excellent shows, guys. Thank you very much, Dadpool. As always, you're a loyal subscriber, and you're here every single time, and I couldn't do it without you. Batman Another 89 is another masterpiece. Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are going to be getting all that on the channel. But okay, so that's going to do it for me. So do the 3 things that you got to do every single day, guys. Number 1 is be careful. Number 2 is be safe. And number 3, be good to one another. So on that note, I'm David Steele. He is Matthew Anderson. I'm Real Talks, and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye, guys.